Welcome to Creepytalks, where hidden fears come alive through chilling horror tales. Dare to listen as every story pulls you deeper into the darkness. Story 1, The Graveyard Shift. Walmart Supercenter. 1847 never truly slept. Even at 2:47 a.m., fluorescent lights buzzed relentlessly, casting a pale, sickly glow over endless aisles of discount products and forgotten dreams. The store was officially 24 hours, but everyone who worked the graveyard shift knew the truth. After midnight, Walmart belonged to something else, something that didn't shop like normal people. Evan Carter learned that on his third week working overnight security. He was 26, recently divorced, and desperately short on cash. The Walmart job wasn't glamorous, but it paid just enough to keep his tiny apartment and his sanity. At least that's what he believed back then. At 2:30 a.m., the store felt wrong. Not empty, not quiet, wrong. The kind of wrong you feel in your bones before your mind can explain it. Evan stood near the front entrance, sipping lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug, watching automatic doors slide open and close for no reason at all. The night crew stocked shelves in silence, moving like tired ghosts. Somewhere deep in the store, a child laughed. Evan froze. There were no children allowed in the store past midnight unless accompanied by a parent, and he had personally escorted the last family out almost an hour earlier. He pressed the radio clip to his shoulder. Carla?" he whispered. "You hear that?" Static crackled. Then Carla, the overnight manager, answered in a bored voice. "Probably just someone's phone, Evan. Relax." But Evan knew the difference between a phone and a real laugh. This was soft, breathless, and close. The laugh echoed again, drifting from aisle 19, the toy section. Evan swallowed hard and started walking. Each step felt heavier than the last. The polished floors reflected his face in distorted fragments, making him look pale and unfamiliar. His own reflection didn't seem to blink when he did. When he reached aisle 19, the laughter stopped. Rows of dolls stared at him. Plastic eyes followed his movement. Hundreds of tiny smiles frozen in place. A My Little Pony toy suddenly whinnied, though Evan was certain no one had touched it. "Hello?" he called out. "Store's closing soon." A lie, and they both knew it. That's when he noticed the shopping cart. It sat in the middle of the aisle, perfectly centered, facing him. Empty, except for a single item, a black wallet. Evan's stomach tightened. He hadn't seen anyone walk down this aisle. No footsteps, no shadows, just the cart, waiting. He approached slowly, hand hovering near his flashlight. The wallet looked old, leather cracked, edges worn smooth. Not something you'd expect to find in a Walmart. Evan picked it up. Inside was no cash, no credit cards, just an ID. The photo made his breath catch. It was a Walmart employee badge from this store. The name read, Michael H. Reynolds position, overnight stock, associate status. Active. The photo showed a man in his early 30s, dark hair, tired eyes. Evan recognized him instantly. Michael Reynolds had disappeared 6 months ago. He'd vanished during an overnight shift. Cameras caught him walking into the employee-only hallway near receiving and never coming out. Police assumed he'd walked off the job. The employees knew better. Evan dropped the wallet. The fluorescent lights flickered violently, plunging the aisle into darkness for half a second, just long enough for Evan to hear breathing. Not his own. Slow, wet, right behind him. He spun around, flashlight swinging wildly. Nothing. The aisle was empty, but the cart was closer now. It hadn't moved before. Evan backed away, heart pounding. His radio suddenly blared to life. "Security to cameras," Carla snapped. "Now!" Evan ran. The security office was a cramped room near customer service, walls lined with monitors showing every corner of the store. Carla stood there, face pale, finger pointing at one screen. "Tell me you're seeing this," she said. Evan looked. Camera 7, aisle 19. The cart was rolling slowly on its own. But that wasn't the worst part. Behind it was a man, tall, thin, wearing a Walmart vest so old it looked gray instead of blue. His face was blurred by static, but the way he moved, jerky, unnatural, made Evan's skin crawl. The man stopped. Then he lifted his head and looked directly into the camera. The static cleared. It was Michael Reynolds, but his eyes were wrong, completely black. Carla whispered, "That's impossible." The man smiled and mouthed two words, "Still open." Every monitor went black at once. The lights in the store shut off. Emergency red bulbs flickered on, bathing everything in the color of blood. From somewhere deep inside Walmart, a shopping cart clattered, then another, then dozens. Evan realized the truth too late. Michael Reynolds wasn't the midnight customer. He was just the first one who never checked out. Story 2. The aisles that don't exist. The emergency lights pulsed like a dying heartbeat. Red, dark, red again. Evan's ears rang as if the store itself were screaming, though no sound escaped the walls. The monitors in the security room remained black, reflecting his face back at him. Wide eyes, jaw trembling. A man who already knew he'd made a terrible mistake by taking this job. Carla backed away from the screens, whispering prayers under her breath. "No, no, no. This isn't happening," she muttered. "This store doesn't do this anymore." Evan turned toward her sharply. "Anymore? What do you mean anymore?" Before she could answer, the radio crackled. Not static. Breathing. Deep. Labored. Wet. Then a voice slid through the speaker, distorted but unmistakable. "Attention Walmart associates. The store is now closed. Please proceed to checkout." It wasn't the automated announcement. It was Michael Reynolds. Evan ripped the radio off his shoulder and threw it against the wall. The breathing didn't stop. It echoed now from the ceiling vents, crawling through the store like an infection. Carla grabbed Evan's arm with desperate strength. "We have to lock down," she hissed. "Protocol Black." "What the hell is Protocol Black?" Her eyes met his, glassy with fear. "Missing persons." They hurried out of the security room into the main store. The red lights revealed chaos. Shopping carts scattered, shelves knocked over, products spilled across the floor as if someone had searched desperately for something they could never find. The toy aisle was empty. Too empty. All the dolls were gone. Every shelf bare, except for a single handwritten sign taped crookedly to the end cap. "Still open. Come find us." Evan felt his chest tighten. "Carla, what happened to Michael?" She swallowed. "He didn't disappear. He stayed after closing." Evan stared at her. She continued, voice trembling. 6 months ago, inventory was off. Entire pallets missing. Management thought it was theft. Michael volunteered to stay late and help search. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He found something." The lights flickered again, this time longer. The red glow stretched and warped, bending the aisles into unfamiliar shapes. Evan blinked. Aisle 12 was no longer where it should be. In its place was a narrow corridor, longer than the store itself should allow. The shelves were packed tightly together, stretching far into darkness, labels peeling, barcodes scratched out. "Tell me you see that," Evan said. Carla nodded slowly. These are the wrong aisles. They stepped forward. The air grew colder with each step. Evan's breath fogged as the temperature dropped unnaturally fast. Overhead speakers crackled to life again. Rollback prices. No returns. No exits. The voice overlapped itself. Dozens of whispers layered together. The shelves began to change. Products Evan recognized twisted into unfamiliar versions of themselves. Food labels misspelled, faces stretched into smiles that were just a little too wide. Mannequins stood where clothes racks should be, heads turned slightly toward them, eyes hollow. One mannequin wore a Walmart vest, another wore a name tag. Michael R. Carla gagged. They tried to turn back. The entrance was gone. Behind them now stretched another aisle, identical, endless. Evan's panic surged. This isn't real. We're hallucinating. Carbon monoxide leak or something. A cart rolled past them. It was overflowing. Wallets, phones, keys, employee badges, dozens of them. Every single one from overnight workers. The cart stopped. A receipt slowly printed from nowhere, unrolling across the floor until it brushed Evan's boot. He picked it up with shaking hands. The receipt was long, too long. Names filled the page, dates, times, shifts. At the bottom, total items, 23. Total souls, 23. Status, unreturned. Carla screamed. From the darkness ahead, footsteps echoed, slow, dragging, uneven. Shapes began to emerge from between the shelves. People, employees, customers, or what was left of them. Their faces were slack, eyes empty, mouths stained black, as if they'd been screaming until their throats bled. Walmart vests hung from their bodies like burial shrouds. Michael Reynolds stepped forward. Up close, Evan saw the truth. Michael's body was wrong. His limbs bent at impossible angles. His skin looked stretched too tight, veins dark and pulsing beneath it like something alive was crawling inside him. His eyes, those black, empty pits, locked onto Evan. "You took my wallet," Michael said calmly. Evan couldn't move. I didn't know." Michael smiled wider than a human mouth should allow. "No receipt," he whispered. "No proof of exit." The others closed in. Hands grabbed Evan's arms, ice-cold fingers digging into his skin. He screamed as something sharp pressed against his wrist. A scanner. Beep. Pain exploded through his body as the scanner burned a barcode to his flesh. He thrashed, screaming, as numbers seared into his skin. Michael leaned close. "Every customer must be accounted for." Carla charged forward, swinging a fire extinguisher. She smashed it into Michael's head. He didn't flinch. Instead, his head snapped toward her violently. "Manager override detected," he said. The floor beneath Carla cracked open. Shelves collapsed inward, dragging her down into darkness. Her scream echoed for seconds, then cut off abruptly. Evan sobbed, struggling wildly. Michael released him. "Run," he said softly. "Aisle 66. Evan didn't hesitate. He ran. The aisles twisted as he sprinted, numbers flashing overhead. 13, 27, 51, 66. At the end of the aisle was a door. "Employees only," he burst through it and slammed it shut behind him. Silence. He collapsed against the wall, gasping. The hallway looked normal. Too normal. At the far end was the break room. Lights on. Coffee machine humming. Evan staggered inside. Sitting at the table were people. Police officers, investigators, former employees, all staring at him. One officer stood and smiled. "Sir, you've been missing for 3 days," he said gently. "We found you wandering in an abandoned Walmart." Evan's heart dropped. "Abandoned?" The officer nodded. This store burned down last year. The coffee machine stopped. Every head turned toward Evan at once. Their smiles widened unnaturally. Behind him, the door slowly creaked open. A familiar voice whispered, "Still open." Story 3, The Receipt You Can Never Return. The officer's smile stretched too wide. His jaw cracked as it widened, skin pulling tight like plastic overheated under fluorescent lights. One by one, the others in the break room followed suit, mouths splitting, eyes darkening, bodies stiffening into something that only pretended to be human. Evan staggered backward. "No, no, you said this place burned down," he whispered. The officer tilted his head unnaturally. "It did," he replied calmly. "That's why it's easier to keep customers now." The door behind Evan slammed shut on its own. The lights flickered from warm yellow back to Walmart white, harsh, unforgiving, endless. The comforting illusion of the break room peeled away like cheap wallpaper, revealing scorched walls, melted lockers, and blackened handprints burned permanently into the concrete. The smell hit him next. Smoke, rot, something sweet and rotten underneath, like spoiled meat wrapped in plastic. Michael Reynolds stepped out of the shadows. He wasn't wearing the vest anymore. It had grown into him. The blue fabric fused with his skin, barcode patterns crawling across his chest and neck like veins. His face sagged, melting slightly on one side, as if exposed to intense heat and then reshaped poorly. "You made it to returns," Michael said. "Almost nobody does." Evan dropped to his knees. "Please," he sobbed. "I just want to leave." Michael crouched down until they were eye level. "Oh," he said gently. "Everyone wants to leave." The walls around them groaned. Aisles unfolded outward like ribs opening in a chest cavity, revealing the heart of the store, an enormous open space Evan had never seen before. It wasn't on any blueprint. The ceiling rose impossibly high, disappearing into darkness. Carts moved endlessly along invisible tracks, filled with people instead of products. They stood upright, motionless, eyes glassy, mouths open in silent screams as scanners passed over them again and again. Beep, beep, beep. Each scan carved another number into their skin. Evan screamed. "What is this place?" Michael stood. "This," he said, spreading his arms, "is a store that never closes." The truth poured into Evan's mind all at once. Too fast, too heavy. The fire hadn't been an accident. Years ago, the store failed an inspection, electrical issues, faulty wiring. Management ignored it. The overnight staff paid the price. 23 people died trapped inside. But corporate never let the store die. They rebuilt on top of it. Cheaper, faster, the ground soaked with pain, desperation, unfinished business. Something answered. Walmart didn't just sell products, it collected people. Anyone who stayed too long, anyone who worked overnight, anyone who got lost between aisles when the store decided it needed more inventory. "You're not ghosts," Evan whispered. Michael smiled sadly. "No," he said, "we're assets." A loud ding echoed. An enormous screen flickered to life overhead. Inventory shortage. Detected new stock required. The floor beneath Evan opened. He fell. Down past shelves stacked with bones wrapped in plastic. Past registers manned by skeletons still smiling in their uniforms. Past exit doors that led only to brick walls. He hit the ground hard, knocking the breath from his lungs. He was in customer service. Behind the counter stood Carla, or what was left of her. Her body was half phased into the wall, eyes hollow, mouth stitched shut with receipt paper. Her hands twitched weakly. Evan crawled toward her. I'm sorry, he cried. Her eyes locked onto his. Slowly, painfully, she raised one shaking hand and pointed behind him. The receipt printer screamed to life. It printed faster than any machine should, paper spilling onto the floor like entrails. Words burned into the page in black ink. Return request, Evan Carter. Reason, escape attempt. Condition, used return. Denied. Michael's voice echoed behind him. Nothing leaves once it's used. Hands grabbed Evan again, dozens of them, dragging him toward the register. The scanner was pressed against his chest. The pain was unreal, not just physical. It ripped memories from him, his childhood, his wedding day, his name. Each beep erased a piece of who he was. He screamed until his throat tore. Then, silence. The scanner stopped. Michael stared at the screen. "Wait," he muttered. The overhead lights flickered violently. Another voice cut through the store. "Attention associates. Store closing in 5 minutes." Michael's eyes widened. "That's impossible," he whispered. The walls began to shake. Emergency exits appeared, real ones this time, glowing green. Fire alarms blared. Carla screamed as her body began to crumble into ash. Michael stumbled back. "They never close," he whispered. "They promised." A hand grabbed Evan's wrist. A real hand. A firefighter. "Move!" the man shouted. Evan was dragged through smoke, through collapsing aisles, through screaming alarms that weren't lying this time. He burst out into cold night air. The building behind him collapsed inward with a deafening roar. Silence followed. Evan lay on the pavement, coughing, sobbing, alive. Police lights flashed. Paramedics shouted. Someone wrapped a blanket around him. A woman knelt beside him. "Sir," she said softly, "you're safe now." He laughed hysterically. "No," he whispered. "I'm not." She frowned. "Why?" Evan looked down at his wrist. A barcode burned into his skin. Still warm, still scanning. Behind the police tape, through smoke and rubble, a temporary sign flickered to life on a portable generator. Walmart, coming soon, now hiring overnight staff. Evan screamed as the scanner on his wrist beeped one last time. From deep beneath the rubble, a familiar voice whispered, "Still open."